Hi, Olatunji Sobodu is my name. Happy Easter to you. Um, and we thank God for the privilege to know Christ and for all that Jesus did, coming to save us. We thank God for the love that He expressed by sending His Son to die on the cross for us. And we thank God for the leadership role that He played and the example that He showed us that He was for those who want to do leadership right. I thought, during this Easter period to share some, what I consider to be some very instructive lessons on leadership at Easter. So I call this, Easter on leadership. Easter on leadership. Again, my name is Olatunji Sobodu. And, this is meant to be a relaxed but very instructive discussion. Um, and I'll try and make it as quick, as pointed, as possible. So I want to speak on 9 things that I believe each of us should take away from everything that Jesus represented at Easter, you know, all that Easter is about and what we celebrate. And let me start with the first. And this is very important: authenticity. Authenticity. I make bold to submit that this is one of the greatest challenges that any leader, faces. And most leaders fail on this count. Many leaders are unable to secure the support of their subordinates, of their followers, because they don't come across as being authentic. They don't come across as being authentic. I think nothing undermines a leader more than this very fact: not living up to uh, who they project themselves to be, what they say. And there are different, ways by which we can, assess the issue of authenticity. I'm not going to go into that. I just want to draw attention to these as one of the things that Jesus modeled as a compelling leader, and it should be topmost in the aspirations of every true leader. You want to come across as being authentic. You want to be authentic, indeed, not only be perceived or seen to be authentic. And one profound way that Jesus showed that is that he ended up on the cross. Now, before he ended up on the cross, he was maltreated. Okay. And at the end of the day, also, he rose from the dead. So, what's authentic in all of that? He had said to his followers that all of those things were going to happen. At a time when they couldn't understand it, at a time when, the signals were not there, they didn't quite see it coming. He had been telling them well ahead of time that the time is coming when I'm going to go through this. I remember a time he said to them, pull down, this temple, and I will rebuild it in 3 days. And, you know, they didn't quite understand what he was saying until much later. So everything that he said came to pass before their very eyes. His followers saw him go through the things that he had spoken to them well ahead of time. That's authenticity. It's a dimension of authenticity that is what you say is found to be true. What you say is what you end up living up to. I call it living your message. Living your message is an important dimension of authenticity, and a leader needs to be authentic. So you found people who said, truly, this man was the Son of God. Truly, this man was a prophet. Why? Because he had said things and those things came to pass. He was proven to be credible, to be true, to be authentic. All right? And that's very important. That's very important. It lent him credibility. It secured stronger commitment from his followers. All right? It enhanced their conviction about the path that they had chosen to follow. They were more strongly committed. No wonder they said at a later stage, when the same people who had committed the atrocities against their master said they should not go ahead and be talking about all that happened to their master. And they replied and said to them, you judge yourself, whether we should obey you or we should obey our master. And they said, look, we can't but declare, we can't but do the things that we have heard, that we have seen. All right? We can't. And that position came out of how authentic their master, had come across to them. So, are you authentic? Are you mindful of the things you say, of what you project? Do you live your message? Do you live your message? It's very important. Many leaders fail. Many leaders are weak. Many leaders cannot make impact on their people because they fail on this count. That's number one. Lessons on leadership at Easter. Number two, let's talk about sacrifice. Let's talk about sacrifice. Easter is all about sacrifice. It's the sacrifice of one person. It's the sacrifice of a team, of a leader. From the eyes of those who were members of Jesus's team, it was the sacrifice of a leader. It was a huge sacrifice. All right? A great sacrifice. It was something he had to take upon himself. It wasn't something that he could share with any. All right? And he did. He did. And interesting that he said by himself long before that came, he said, look, he said that no one asked him to lay down his life. He said he decided to lay down. He said because he has power to lay down and he has power to take it up again. And then he said elsewhere, he said, there is no greater love that a man can show to another than for him to lay down his life. Talking about sacrifice. I love the scripture that says, except the grain of wheat or corn falls to the ground and dies, it abides alone. I wrote a book on this where I emphasized this critical aspect of leadership, sacrifice, the burden that the true leader must carry, all right, for the sake of his team. That book is titled uh, Christmas is About Leadership. You can get it on Amazon. Just search for Christmas is About Leadership. And I spoke a lot about, this point there. And the point is that leadership is about sacrifice. True leadership is about sacrifice. It's a bullet that the leader must take by himself on behalf of the people. The time came when the Jesus was arrested and his people began, to try and resist. Peter even caught the ear, of one of the servants of the chief priest. And Jesus told him, no, 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 no. He pulled them all back and he stepped forward. I'm the one you are looking for. Keep all these guys away out of this. All right. I'm going to take the bullet myself. All right. This is about me. It's not about that. That is leadership. That's leadership. And every true, excuse me, every true leader will experience moments like that where you have to step up to take the bullet on behalf of the team. If you are not ready for that, you're not ready to lead. You don't have what it takes to lead. You shouldn't be allowed to lead. Leadership without sacrifice is not leadership. It's not leadership. The grain of corn must fall to the ground and die. And that's not a pleasant experience for any seed or any grain. All right. If it doesn't, it abides alone without a willingness to embrace sacrifice by the leader. You can't make an impact on the people. You can't. It's not possible. If your leadership responsibility does not inconvenience you in very instructive ways, then you need to re examine what you're doing. Probably you are not doing leadership. All right. Probably you are not doing leadership. So sacrifice is key. We learn that lesson from Easter. Jesus sacrificed. He paid a huge price, not because of himself, but because of every one of us, because of those who followed him primarily. Okay. And so we should expect this. That's number two. Number three derives a bit from that, which is strength. A leader requires strength. Perhaps, if you like, inner strength. Okay. Now, even when Jesus was, yes, he had told his people about the price he was to pay. But guess what? When the time approached, the weight of that sacrifice, bore heavily upon him. And at the point he said, look, my soul is sorrowful even unto death. He felt the burden, of the cross that lay ahead of him. And so he went to pray. He went to seek help. And we understood that in response to his prayer, God sent an angel to strengthen him, which meant what he needed was strength. He needed strength in order to be able to pay that price. So that sacrifice that the leader is required to make will necessarily have to make will require strength as well. Would require strength. So a leader, and not just physical strength, which is important, emotional strength, psychological strength. All right. They are all very important for the leader to be able to shoulder the burden of leadership. to shoulder the burden of leadership. Apart from looking to God for supernatural strength to be able to do that, one of the very instructive sources of strength is knowledge. Is knowledge. Because when you know these things, all right, there are things you know that serve as a source of strength. All right. We're told that those who know their God, they shall be strong. They shall be strong and they shall do exploits. Those who know their God. So knowledge is a key, is a key. Knowledge is a key. The other thing that is important is the strength of character. Is the strength of character. And that's why it's important that leaders build character. Again, this is one of the places where leaders miss it. In the pursuit of leadership, their eyes are off the ball. Their eyes are more on profit and on those other things and less on the impact they make on the people, specifically developing the character of the people. Character is a source of strength. And I wish I could go into all of that, but let's just leave it at that. Character is very, very important. In fact, when the Bible was talking about be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might, when you look at the components of that whole armor, they simply refer to character, just describing character. So there is the place of character, all right, as a source of strength, as a source of strength. The leader needs strength. Otherwise, you can't embrace, you can't shoulder the sacrifice that leadership will demand from you. And we've just talked about how you can access that strength. Let's look at number 4, which is something that's very important as well. A lesson that we must learn from Easter on leadership, and that is succession. I just did a, a session recently, um, in I think it was on Monday when at the Leadership Mondays, there's a session, where I hand out leadership nuggets on Mondays. And it was Easter Monday, so it was an opportunity to share, to hand out a nugget based on Easter. And there I spoke about, it is finished. And there I was saying that it is finished is a very instructive statement that Jesus made. And he made it, to signal the fact that his job was done. But many times when we look at the job that was done, our focus is on the fact that he paid the price. He was hung on the cross, and yes, we were told that all of that will happen. It was a huge price that he had to pay. But the moment he did that, that job was done. So we had access to salvation and all of that. However, that was not the only thing that was done, that was finished. There was something else that was finished. He finished preparing successors. He finished preparing successors because when you look at John, in John 17, Jesus gave his report card. There, he told God, he said, "You gave me some men." He said, "I have completed the assignment that you gave me." All right. He was saying that, as far as this man, preparing this man is concerned, it is finished. This job is finished. And so that was a part of his assignment. How unfortunate that we play down on that. And that tells us about succession. And I did say, let's think of it a moment. What if he had died on the cross? If you thought that that was the only thing that was finished, okay. If he didn't have anyone prepared with a mandate to go ahead and tell others about the things that he had done, about the things, the same good news that he brought. What would have happened after his death? I guarantee you, the entire episode would have been forgotten by now. I mean, it's 2,000 years plus, and we're still talking about him. And we're talking about him essentially because he prepared a set of people, successors, who were like him and who had the mandate not to die on the cross, but to go ahead and speak about him and get other people to benefit from what he had done, just like his disciples benefited. So, succession is crucial. Succession is crucial for leadership. Succession is crucial. And one of the points I made in that, um, video, you can check it out at the end of this one, I believe. uh, it is finished is the title. One of the points I made was that the succession issue is so important that Jesus actually focused on it from the very onset of his ministry. It is that important. He began to prepare his people, people who will succeed him, people who will carry on his message the moment he stepped out, on his leadership assignment, on his mandate. That's how important succession is. You don't wait until you are ready to leave before you start thinking of succession as a leader, because you don't know how long you're going to be in that position. You start thinking succession. You start preparing your people to be successors. You start identifying the potentials to lead the team into the future that doesn't have you, all right, in the mix from the beginning. It is the reason that many leaders fail on these all important count, to leave the stage without having successors is failure on the part of a leader. Is failure. And there can't be an excuse that you didn't have enough time to prepare successors. Again, that's just an excuse. The reason that tends to happen is because we begin to look at succession much later, after we have taken responsibility, leadership responsibility, when in fact we should start from the very onset. So succession is a very important message that we should get, is an important lesson of leadership. And we can talk also in detail about how Jesus did that. He did that so well that his guys knew that they were successors. And among them, they knew who was supposed to lead. And indeed, each one, knew his or her role. Okay? So, succession, very important. And tied to that is the issue of continuity. Continuity. Leadership is about continuity. Leadership doesn't begin and end with the leader. All right? Leadership outlives the leader. Leadership is meant to be a chain, and the leader comes in as one with the responsibility to ensure that there is continuity. That there is continuity. There must be life after the leader. All right? There must be continuation after the leader. And imagine the mandate didn't stop. The momentum or the temple did not stop because Jesus died. Yes, he resurrected, he went to heaven, but guess what? Everything took off thereafter. First, he was himself alone, leading 12. After he left, then there were 12, who were pushing on all fronts. And as the 12 were doing that, they were developing more people. So before you knew it, there was multiplication. All right. And that was because he was conscious of the fact that he needed to put structures in place to ensure continuity. If he hadn't been continuity focused, he wouldn't have placed as much emphasis on succession. And his message would have been, the impact of his message would have been very restricted. Very few people would have benefited from the great price that he paid. I mean, imagine, dying in the manner that he died, and then only a handful of people benefit from the salvation experience. All right. But, millions, hundreds of millions have benefited since that time over the course of 2,000 years, just because there were successors and because there was continuity. Okay, I will talk about, another leg of this shortly. So leaders must be focused on continuity. What happens? You have the opportunity while you are on the seat to set in motion a process that continues with what you have been doing. Yes, you may not be the one who carries on with the work, but the work must reflect your input. To that extent, there is continuity. And those who succeed you actually would be able to do more than you did, better than you did, not necessarily because they are better than you, because you empowered them. But that's how it works. That's how it works. It's a reflection of the fact that you did a good job. When there is no continuity, or when the effect of your leadership dissipates and disappears only after a few months or a few years, that you left the scene, it shows the quality of your leadership, and it shows how much you focused on continuity. So whether your impact is going to last well into the future is in your hands. And it's all through continuity. That's the fifth lesson out of 9 that I'd like to share with you. Let me speak on the subject of betrayal as number 6. It's an important lesson for us here. Betrayal. We all know what happened to Jesus. How that out of 12 people, one of them, by name Judas, betrayed him. He gave him away. All right. I often, ask that, what if that happened to a leader in today's world? How will today's leaders react, to such, in inverted commas, dastardly act? And I know that many leaders will not take it well. I will be challenged, on how to manage that, except that I know better today, having received some understanding about that issue. And what I want to say is a big lesson, is that betrayal comes with the territory. It comes with the territory. So a leader should not be surprised that a member or more of the team turns out to betray them. All right, it comes with the territory. There can be people like that. There may be situations like that. But it does not mean that the leader is ineffective. It doesn't mean that the leader, hasn't made the right impact. All right. What in the case of Jesus, he served, as the instrument for fulfilling what he had said. What if there was no Judas? How will he have ended up on the cross? There had to be a Judas, you know. And the enemies of a man are members of his household. So if there is anybody who is going to undermine you, it's going to come from your inner circle. It's going to come from your group. Okay? But for the most part, they end up being instruments, not of destruction, but of fulfilling destiny. In his own case, Judas turned out to be an instrument for fulfilling destiny. But one of the things that the leader should also note is that in the case of Judas, uh, Jesus was not taken by surprise. And that's very important. It would have been a different, kettle of fish had Jesus been taken by surprise. He wasn't taken by surprise. He knew. In fact, at the point, he even encouraged Judas to go and do what he's always had in his mind to go and fulfill, as it were, his own destiny, as far as his own mandate, Jesus's mandate was concerned. And that's the challenge that we have as leaders. True leaders should know enough, should be discerning enough about their team members and ensure they are not taken by surprise, by betrayals, by disloyalty on the part of their team members. And that's one of the ways by which they can accommodate the shock and manage the shock. All right? Because once you know, there is only so much damage that person can do. And then you can control the process, all right, instead of being taken aback. All right. But to fret at people who betray you, you know, members of your team who betray you, is to be immature in as a leader. All right. The challenge of leadership is to understand that betrayal is a part of the deal. If you do your work well, there won't be too many of them. If you do your work well, you will know those who have that tendency even before they strike or before they disappoint you, and you'll be able to manage it effectively. If you understand the way the game goes, you even know that some of these people are required, all right, to make your job easier, to make you fulfill the mandate for your leadership, you know, just like they did in the case of Jesus. All right. Judas was just an instrument for uh, making Jesus very effective and successful, as a leader, because he helped him to accomplish his mandate. That's something I believe is an important lesson, for leaders as well, how you handle betrayal. It's not by cursing and all of that, which I'm sure many of us would end up doing today. Is by being rising up and dealing with it in a matured manner. The number 7 point I'd like to also speak to, lessons, leadership lessons, from Easter, is the issue of quitting the stage, quitting the stage. Um, Again, when you look at it, Jesus had to leave the stage at some point. There's always a point when your job is done. He said it is finished. So he knew when his job was over. He knew when he was done. He knew when he needed to get off the stage. He knew when he had to leave you know, so that his people can continue with his ministry. And again, therein lies the challenge for leaders. Leaders must know when it is finished. You must know when your job is done. One of the things we tend to say is that, leave when the ovation is loudest. Jesus didn't leave when the ovation was loudest. He left when his job was done. You leave when your job is done, not when it is loudest. When it is loudest doesn't mean your job is done. And your job could be done before any ovation even comes at all. All right? So must you wait until the ovation comes? You are not leading because of ovation. Leadership is not a popularity contest. You are leading because you have a clear mandate to impact on people, to mature people, to develop people, and to leave them at a stage to continue with the work. Okay, so you must know when to leave, and you know when to leave if you have a clear understanding of your mandate. Jesus knew exactly what his mandate was. I mean, it reminds me of when he read Isaiah 61. He read that in Luke chapter 4, and then he went to the synagogue and they brought a scroll out for him, and he read Isaiah 61, verses 1 to 3. And he says, well, today, this prophecy is fulfilled in your eyes and in your ears. Now, he saw that was his mandate. This is what I have come to do. So at the point that he was saying it is finished, he was saying that mandate that I read out to you guys in Isaiah 61 3 years ago is done. And to the extent that it is done, I'm quitting the stage. All right. And so he went ahead, quit the stage, and left, for his guys to take over from that point onwards. Left for his guys to take over from that point onwards. And of course, like I said before, he had prepared his people to take over. So he didn't have any problem quitting the stage. He knew at some point he was going to quit the stage, and he prepared people who would take over from him. That's what you and I need to do as leaders. All right. There is no joy, there is no pride in some leaders who want to make their absence felt. So they create a situation where they don't sufficiently empower the people, and when they leave the stage, they leave a big gap. There's a void, that their people cannot feel, and so they feel important. Okay, when in fact they have failed. When in fact they have failed. That's failure of leadership. It is an act of irresponsibility for a leader to leave the stage with that kind of void. With that kind of void. And that's why Jesus focused on succession, focused on continuity from day one, preparing people who will take the work forward. So even when he left, all right, his disciples continued, and the same people marveled at his disciples. They said, look, these are illiterate men. We've always known them. What has happened to them in a space of 3 years? And they said, oh, they have been with Jesus. That means they saw in them the same capabilities, the same competence, the same courage, the same intelligence that the master had. That points to the fact that their master prepared them, to take responsibility and take, the mandate further. That's responsible leadership. That's leadership that enhances the value, of the lives of the followers. That's leadership that makes the people better by the time they are leaving. All right. and they can live confidently because they know that the work will continue and that those they left would be better, will do better than they did. Okay, so you must learn to quit the stage, and to quit the stage not in an irresponsible manner, in a very responsible manner. Quitting the stage, the timing, but more importantly, who are those that you are leaving behind? Who is going to carry the work forward? That's number 7. Number 8, again, ties in a bit with number 7. And here I want to talk about the scorecard of the leader. The scorecard of the leader. I love an aspect. We don't often refer to it. Again, at Easter, the focus is on Jesus on the cross and all of that. But we forget that before he got to the cross, he did some housekeeping. Now, one of the, housekeeping that he did was in John 17, where he said to God, look, I'm done preparing the people. I am done with this assignment that you gave me. There are people you gave me, and I have kept them. All right? I kept them, except the one who was destined to be lost, which is Judas that we have talked about. He had his own mandate. All right? His destiny was different. But outside of him, every other one, he successfully secured their destinies, prepared them, for the role that they were to play after he has gone. Okay. And therein you find the scorecard. I love it because I believe it points leaders to what is important with leadership. And Jesus said, he said to God, he said, look, in fact, he was bold enough to say to God, now glorify me. Okay, because I've completed the work and I did it well. I succeeded in it. I mean, I'd like to be in that kind of situation. And that was clearly because he knew what the scorecard was. He knew what his mandate was. He knew what God was looking for. And so, he had the boldness to declare that. But one of the things that I saw there, he said, I have given them your word. I have given them your word, and they have received it, and they believe that I came from you. Okay, so and then he said at a point, he said, sanctify them by your word. Your word is true. And that again shows the importance of the word of a leader. Leaders don't understand how important their words are, and how that the words that we speak are central to getting our jobs done as leaders. If you fail in your leadership assignment, a big part of it are your words. Your words shape the people that you are supervising. People are shaped by words. You want to renew the minds of the people, is got to be by words, because that's how words transform. He said, I have given them your word. I've given them your word. So as a leader, what word are you giving to the people? Why is it that your people are not experiencing a change, in behavior, a change in mindset? Why is it that they are not experiencing a change in their vocabulary, in the way they speak? What words are you giving to them? The words of a leader are powerful. Where the word of a king is, there is power. The words of a leader are powerful. So you look at, that John 17, you see what is important. All right, I gave them your word. They believed in you. You see love there. You see the prayer of, a leader there. even praying for the success of those he has groomed. And for those who will believe in the ones he has groomed, you see unity there. You see love there. These are all the important things. It's about what the people become. It's not primarily about profit, market share, cost, and all of that stuff. Those are, secondary. The primary effect of leadership is a people effect, is a person effect. All right. Your leadership must first be felt in the person. All right. Before it translates into some other more concrete actions. Now, let me end with the ninth lesson. So, we've been on 9 lessons on leadership at Easter. I've spoken about authenticity. I've spoken about sacrifice, spoken about strength, spoken about succession, spoken about continuity, spoken about, the concept of betrayal, quitting the stage, number 7, and the scorecard, the leader scorecard, number 8. And finally, talking about a new mandate, And you'll find that if you were to look at like Mark 16, I believe the last couple of verses where, Jesus said to the people, go ahead and make disciples of all nations. All right. So he not only prepared successors, he not only set in place the structure for continuity, he also gave a clear mandate that is for avoidance of doubt. This is what you guys need to pay attention to. This is what you guys need to pay attention to. This is what is expected of you. I mean, the same way that he could beat his chest, when he rendered his scorecard to God in John 17, he was also setting his people up to be able to do the same. Because when the mandate is there and it is clear, then it's easy for the people to run, accordingly. Reminding us of, what the Bible says in Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 1. I will stand upon my watch, and look up to God and see what he will say to me when I, am reproved. And he says, write the vision, make it plain upon the tablets, that he may run who reads it, that he may run. He said, make the vision plain. It's like a mandate. This is what you are supposed to do, so that the one to whom you have given it can run accordingly, can run without confusion. And to the extent that you can do that, then it will be easy for you to know when you are on course, or indeed when you are missing it. So a leader should also make clear the mandate to successors. When you say continuity, what are you expecting them to continue? If they are succeeding you, what do you expect of them? All right. What should they be focusing on? What should they be focusing on? It is part of what is required for leadership success. For you to be a true success as a leader, you must be clear. Help your successors in terms of, the clarity of their mandate. Their mandate wasn't exactly the same as that of Jesus. All right. And that's why he made it clear to them. That's why he made it. They weren't supposed to go and die on the cross. No, because that had already been taken care of. But they were supposed to go ahead and also prepare people, you know, just as Jesus has prepared them. And their job is to witness to what Jesus did and to keep doing that, for as long as keep that flowing. That's why today you and I can experience, can be a part of what Jesus did, because some people were given the mandate and they embraced it. They were trained on how to go ahead and fulfill that mandate. And so you and I can embrace that same good news today and take full advantage of it. That's how leadership is done. That's how leadership is done. So that's it. Just wanted to share with you these 9 lessons, at least that I found to be very profound, and that would do any leader a world of good. Any leader a world of good. This is something that comes from a celebration of Easter. Looks like a very timely season to speak to this kind of issues. The leader must pursue authenticity. It's crucial. The leadership is about sacrifice. A leader will have to subject himself to sacrifice. A leader needs strength, among others, to even be able to pay the sacrifice. A leader needs to focus on succession, all right, and not at the end of his or her tenure, but from the moment they take on that responsibility. A leader needs to focus on continuity, because leadership is not about you or your tenure. Indeed, leadership is more about what happens after you have left than what happened while you were on the seat. A leader should be mindful of betrayal, not be taken aback, all right, not be um, disoriented by the fact that, in spite of all your hard work, some people can still betray you. It comes with the territory. All that is required is that you stay ahead of such people, so that you can still be in control. A leader needs to know when to quit the stage. A leader needs also to understand exactly what the true scorecard of leadership is, so that we're not majoring on the minor and minoring on the major. And finally, a leader needs to be clear, to give a new mandate or the specific mandate to those who would succeed him or her. Once again, thank you for joining and thank you for watching. My name is Olatunji Sobodu. This is coming to you from Emed Leadership Academy, where leaders are nurtured based on truth coming from the Word of God. This is special Easter edition again, and I do hope it's been a blessing to you. If it has, please let us know, give us a feedback, subscribe to our channel, give a commentary, you know, um, or you can also participate in some of our programs, like the Profit from Parables Bootcamp that's starting on the 6th of May. And there we'll be walking through the 38 parables of Jesus, to draw, to identify the secrets, to unveil principles that we need to live by, as it affects different areas of our lives: relationship, finance, investment, character, leadership, even your spirit man. That's what we'll be walking through. And even if I have to say so, because I'm leading that adventure, I know it's one that will bring about such transformation. You'll be glad that you are a part of it. So, if you feel up to it, please join us. You see the link in the description. Share it as well. Let other people join us. We have space to accommodate as many people as would love to undertake that adventure. An adventure that I believe most people, have not undertaken, Even those who have been Christians for many years, how wonderful it would be if, one can undertake that. As they say, Jesus never taught without parables. If a man never taught, a person that profound never taught without using these same parables, shouldn't we take interest in it? Doesn't that tell you that there's something, in these parables? There are secrets in these parables, that if you're able to unveil them, you'll be able to experience, some of the profound things that he experienced and that people experience by interacting with him. So, you know, join us. We look forward to as many people as can make it. It will be my pleasure to lead that group on that adventure. On that adventure. Once again, it's all good. Thank you very much for watching, for joining. God bless you. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye bye.